There is something that hell fears more than a loud woman, more than a fighting woman. It is a woman who is silent because she trusts God. You see, silence can be misunderstood. People may look at her and think she is weak. They may call her passive. They may accuse her of giving up. But what they don't see is that she has tapped into a higher realm. She's not reacting to the situation. She's responding to the Spirit. She knows who she is and whose she is. This woman is not quiet because she has nothing to say. She is quiet because she knows her words are too powerful to be wasted. She understands that her voice carries weight in the heavens, so she doesn't speak to prove a point. She speaks when heaven has something to declare, and until then, she is still, because the one who fights for her is moving in silence too. This woman has discovered that God's greatest victories often come without noise. That's why she doesn't panic when doors close. She doesn't fall apart when people leave. She doesn't retaliate when she's betrayed. Her silence is not a retreat, it's a strategy. It's alignment, it's surrender, not to defeat, but to destiny. She's learned that some things are not worth her energy. Some battles are not hers to fight. She's dangerous because she has chosen to conserve her strength for the right war. And while others waste time explaining themselves, defending their name, or proving their worth, she just watches God elevate her in silence. She trusts the process, even when it's painful. She trusts the pruning, even when it cuts deep. Because she knows that anything God takes away, He replaces with something eternal. Her tears are not signs of sorrow. They are seeds in the soil of her promise. And her silence is the sound of faith echoing in the throne room of heaven. She is dangerous not because she has control over everything, but because she has surrendered control to the one who controls all things. And when a woman reaches that point, nothing moves her. Disappointment doesn't shake her. Delay doesn't discourage her. Rejection doesn't destroy her. She stands, not because everything is perfect, but because she knows the perfect one is standing with her. So when you see a woman who no longer argues, no longer explains, no longer reacts, know that you are looking at a woman who has become a weapon in the hands of God. Her silence is sacred. Her rest is warfare. And her trust is her shield. She is not absent. She is present in the Spirit. She is not weak. She is watching. She is not finished. She is focused. That kind of woman is not to be underestimated. That kind of woman is not to be taken lightly, because when she moves with heaven. And when she speaks with authority. But until then, she is silent because she trusts God. Silence is not weakness. It is divine strategy. It is the language of the spiritually mature, the posture of those who have discovered the power of restraint. It takes more strength to remain silent in a storm than to scream in panic. Silence is not the absence of voice. It is the presence of wisdom. A woman who chooses silence is not retreating. She is discerning. She understands that not every battle requires her response, and not every accusation deserves her. And her silence is not a sign of fear. It is a mark of faith. There is power in withholding words, especially when those words could be used to defend, retaliate, or correct. Silence is what God used in the face of false accusation. Jesus remained silent before his accusers, not because he was powerless, but because he was in full control. That same spirit lives in the woman who chooses silence today. Her silence says, I know who I am. It declares, God will vindicate me. She does not need to announce her anointing or explain her calling. Her fruit will speak for her. Her results will silence her critics. In a world where everyone is rushing to speak, post, and react, silence becomes a rare and radical act of trust. It is a divine strategy because it makes room for God to act. When she is silent, she is listening. When she is silent, she is discerning the atmosphere. When she is silent, she is not absent, she is aligned. Silence allows her to move with clarity instead of confusion. It keeps her spirit clean and her heart focused. She understands that in the silence, she hears the whispers of heaven more clearly than the noise of the world. And that is where her true power is refined. Her trust is rooted in divine timing, not emotional reaction. She doesn't move because her feelings demand action. She moves when the Spirit gives instruction. While others are ruled by impulse and driven by urgency, she is anchored in patience. Her heart may feel the storm, but her soul waits on the voice of God. She understands that emotions are temporary, but God's plan is eternal. So she chooses not to react in haste, but to respond in wisdom. She has learned that what is born out of emotion often dies in disappointment. But what is birthed in divine timing carries the breath of destiny. That's why she can stand still when others rush ahead. She has trained her spirit to discern the difference between what is urgent and what is divine. She refuses to let pressure dictate her decisions because she knows pressure is temporary, but purpose is permanent. When doors close, she doesn't panic. When people walk away, she doesn't chase. When life feels delayed, she doesn't become bitter. Instead, she lifts her eyes to the one who sees the end from the beginning. She trusts that what God withholds today, he may be preparing for a greater release tomorrow. She doesn't settle for what's available. She waits for what's ordained. And it's in that waiting, in that surrender, where her strength is built. She becomes unshakable, not because life is easy, but because she knows the one who orders her steps. Her peace doesn't come from having control. It comes from releasing control. She doesn't live by emotion. She lives by revelation. And that makes her dangerous. Because a woman who waits on God's timing cannot be manipulated by fear, nor controlled by chaos. She knows her season is coming, and she refuses to move before heaven moves first. She chooses purpose over noise. In a world filled with endless distractions, opinions, and chaos, she has trained her spirit to remain centered on what truly matters. She understands that noise is not power. Noise is often confusion dressed in urgency. So while others are busy proving themselves, defending their image, and chasing recognition, she remains focused on her assignment. Her silence is not indifference, it is discipline. She has decided that her life will not be spent reacting to every voice, but responding only to the voice of God. Purpose is her compass. It governs her words, her time, her relationships, and her energy. She doesn't entertain every invitation or engage in every battle. Why? Because she knows that every distraction is an enemy of her destiny. Her clarity didn't come from the crowd. It came in the quiet place where God whispered her identity and revealed her assignment. And now that she knows who she is, she doesn't need the noise to validate her calling. She has made peace with being misunderstood. She no longer needs to explain herself to people who do not understand her purpose. Noise may get attention, but purpose brings fulfillment. Noise fades, but purpose endures. She refuses to waste her anointing on arguments that don't matter. She's not interested in being loud. She's determined to be effective. Her impact doesn't come from being seen, it comes from being faithful. Every step she takes is intentional. Every decision is filtered through the lens of her God-given assignment. She doesn't follow trends, she follows truth. She doesn't chase applause, she follows alignment. And because she's committed, to purpose over noise. Heaven trusts her with influence that doesn't need a platform to be powerful. She lets God fight her battles, not because she is incapable of standing up for herself, but because she understands the difference between carnal reaction and divine intervention. She has learned that some battles are too sacred to be fought with human hands. There are moments when silence is not surrender, it is strategy. And in those moments, she steps back, not in defeat, but in trust, knowing that the one who sees in secret will defend her openly. She no longer wastes her energy trying to convince people, correct rumors, or prove her worth. She recognizes that when she steps aside, God steps in. When she holds her peace, heaven begins to move. She remembers the words spoken to Israel. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. And that is the posture she has chosen. Not passivity, but power in rest. Her enemies don't understand her calm. Her critics can't comprehend her restraint. But she knows what they don't. Her God has never lost a battle. He doesn't sleep, and he doesn't miss. While others strive to win with noise and force, she wins with obedience and faith. She doesn't retaliate because she knows revenge is beneath her destiny. She doesn't plot or panic because her hope is not in people. It's in a righteous judge who always rules in truth. When she's betrayed, she doesn't curse, she prays. When she's attacked, she doesn't respond, she worships. Because her strength is not in her voice, it's in the authority of the one who defends her. And when God rises to fight for her, no weapon formed against her can prosper. She has placed her battles in the hands of the Almighty, and that decision alone makes her dangerous. Her peace is her strength. It is not a fragile calm that depends on favorable conditions. It is an unshakable stillness rooted in the presence of God. While the world spins in chaos, she walks with a quiet confidence that confuses both enemies and onlookers. She doesn't panic when things fall apart because her peace was never built on things. It was built on truth. It is the kind of peace that doesn't come from the absence of storms, but from the presence of the one who commands them. She carries peace like armor. It guards her mind from anxiety and shields her heart from offense. She has discovered that peace is not passive, it is powerful. It silences fear, it disarms conflict, and it keeps her spirit steady when the ground beneath her shakes. Her peace is not naive, it is intentional. It is the result of deep trust, unshaken identity, and divine perspective. She is not moved by noise because she is anchored in truth. Peace allows her to walk into rooms that are heavy with tension and bring stillness. It allows her to respond with grace when provoked. It allows her to hold her head high even when the weight of the world rests on her shoulders. She doesn't need to yell to be heard or fight to be seen. Her peace makes her noticeable. It is her atmosphere, it surrounds her, speaks for her, and covers her. She has learned that peace is a weapon. It frustrates the plans of the enemy. The devil thrives in drama, but he cannot operate in stillness. When she refuses to be disturbed, distracted, or divided, she becomes untouchable in the spirit. Her calm becomes her warfare. Her rest becomes her resistance. And her peace becomes her undeniable strength. She is not moved by pressure because she lives. Her life is not directed by trends, emotions, or expectations. It is governed by truth. She doesn't shift just because the crowd moves, and she doesn't bow just because the heat rises. Pressure may surround her, but it does not shape her. What shapes her is conviction, deep rooted and unshaken by the demands of the moment. While others crumble under the weight of people's opinions, deadlines, and desires, she stands firm because her decisions are built on a foundation that doesn't change. She has settled certain things in her spirit. She knows who she is, what she believes, and who she answers to. That clarity makes her immovable. She doesn't perform for approval or compromise to be accepted. Her value is not in what she does under pressure. It's in what she refuses to do. She has learned that principle gives her direction when feelings fail. When emotions rise and situations get chaotic, she doesn't look for the most comfortable option. She chooses what is right. She honors integrity over convenience, character over comfort. And because of that, pressure cannot manipulate her. It cannot make her hurry what God has told her to wait for, and it cannot make her settle for less than what he promised. There is a quiet authority in the woman who lives this way. People may not understand her choices, but they respect her strength. She may not always be the loudest voice in the room, but her presence carries weight. Because when a woman refuses to be moved by pressure and instead moves only by principle, she becomes a pillar, steady, dependable, and strong enough to carry purpose without being broken by it. She's dangerous because she's unshakable. Life has tried to break her. Storms have hit her soul. Betrayal has pierced her heart, and disappointments have knocked on every door she trusted. But she still stands, not because she hasn't felt the pain, but because she's built her life on something deeper than circumstances. Her foundation is not success, approval, or comfort. It's truth. It's identity. It's God. And because of that, nothing can truly shake her. She's not dangerous because she's aggressive or loud. She's dangerous because she refuses to give the enemy the reaction he expects. When others would fall apart, she leans in. When others would retreat, she worships. When everything around her says, give up, she says, I still believe. That kind of resolve is not natural, it's supernatural. It's the fruit of intimacy with God. It's what happens when a woman walks through fire and learns she will not be consumed. People see her strength, but they don't see the nights she fought in prayer. They see her peace, but they don't know the storm she had to silence within herself. She's dangerous not because she's fearless, but because fear no longer controls her. She's dangerous because hope has become her language. Faith has become her posture, and love has become her response. Even in the face of hate. When she's silent, it's not because she's weak, it's because she's discerning. When she's still, it's not because she's idle, it's because she's aligning. She doesn't just survive, she builds. She doesn't just endure, she transforms. And because she cannot be shaken by the world cannot define her, contain her, or destroy her. She is grounded, she is rooted, and she is rising, not in noise, but in power. That's why she's dangerous. So hear me clearly. This kind of woman is not to be pitied or underestimated. She is not silent because she's weak. She is silent because she is secure. She is not still because she is passive. She is still because she is strategic. The most dangerous woman in any room is the one who has mastered herself, submitted to God, and refused to be moved by noise. Her silence is her strength, her peace is her power, and her trust is her weapon. She doesn't need to shout to shake the earth. Her obedience does that. When a woman lets God fight her battles, walks by principle, and lives in divine timing, she becomes unstoppable. She becomes a force that hell fears and heaven backs. Because when God is her defender, her silence speaks louder than any roar.